witches, Wiccans, ghouls. G'day to all you lovely people and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kathy and today I want to discuss this, White Night, Book 9 in the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Like my previous reviews, this one is going to be divided into 3 parts. Spoiler free, with spoilers, and a summary and the score I give the book at the end. If you want to skip ahead, you can find all the timestamps in my description box below. So let's get started talking about White Night. Having read a couple of other things in between, there is no doubt in my mind that this is going to be one of my favourite series. No doubts. I cannot see it deteriorating so much that I won't enjoy the series anymore. Because I love every single book. Not all equally, however. I'm not a big fan of first-person books, and yet I quite often forget that these are written in the first person, which I think is a skill in itself. I actually love seeing the world through Harry's eyes, though I do sometimes forget that it is just his perception we are reading about. Butcher's writing style keeps improving all the time. I definitely see it. But I also think that that is partly due to the fact that he has laid this wonderful foundation of a magical world, which he continuously builds upon. In this book, Harry is called in by Karen Murphy to investigate an apparent suicide. After he investigates, it becomes obvious it isn't a suicide, but a murder, and nor is it an isolated case. And the suicides are all women who seem to have some magical ability, and the plot involves Harry investigating who is targeting these women and why. In the course of his investigation, Harry also learns that the women have been seen in the company of someone wearing a grey cloak, like a warden of the White Council, such as Harry. And there are fears in the community in Chicago that Harry might be actually targeting these women and killing them. That to me seems to indicate that the Black Council, as I've called them, as Harry calls them, this group working in concert to bring down the White Council, aren't satisfied with just destroying the White Council. They also want to destroy all support for this body, destroy their reputation as such. That, I believe, is a summary of the plot. I'm sure I've left things out. As you know, Butcher doesn't usually just have one major plot. There are always other things going on in the background in these books, other small plot lines or storylines that intertwine or intersect with the major plot. We also meet up with several characters from previous books. I have been wondering whether to mention who they are, but I'm afraid they might be considered spoilers, so I will deal with them in the spoiler part of the review. It seems that Murphy is always a staple in these books, which I'm very pleased to see because I am a big Murphy fan. I know I've said this before. I forgot to mention that this book takes place approximately a year after the events in the last book. So Harry now has an apprentice, right? Molly. And we get to see how his relationship with Molly, between mentor and apprentice, has developed. Which it has, definitely. This is editing, Kathy. Some of my footage didn't come out, so I've had to re-record. I wanted to talk about something I didn't like about this book. There is a scene right at the beginning between Molly, Butters the coroner, and Harry. I absolutely hated that scene. It left a bad taste in my mouth. I think the author meant it to be funny and I could see that there was a little bit of humour in it. But this kind of joke, I didn't find funny. I just found it offensive. Perhaps you need to be a female to have that perspective. I don't know. I know that some people don't like the Dresden Files because they feel that Harry is sexist, a chauvinist, or that the author is. I have talked about this before, that yes, Harry is a chauvinist. He even bluntly says it in this book, but it isn't excessive, and I always felt that it was realistic. In an ideal world, we may not have chauvinism or sexism, but we don't live in an ideal world. And I don't want a character in a book to be politically correct because it may offend some people. I want characters to be real, to be true to life. And I always felt that Harry was true to life. It is a flaw in his character, yes, but as I said, it was never offensive. He doesn't denigrate women. He doesn't look upon women as sexual objects. His chauvinism is more in line with chivalry rather than considering women inferior. So I can accept that Harry's chauvinism is a character flaw. What I can't accept, however, is a character like Molly being sexualized unnecessarily. And I felt that scene was unnecessary. I don't recall seeing any other instances of such blatant sexualization of a character. And I really hope I don't see any more, because it will tarnish my enjoyment of this series. And I'll be honest, it took me a while to get over that and get back into the book. But Butcher is very good at winning me over, and I did enjoy the rest of the book. Every author makes a misstep. I can forgive missteps depending upon what it is and how often an author makes them. This one was not a deal breaker for me, but I think if I saw a lot more of this kind of joke, it would be. I had to take a break because the light just faded really dramatically and quickly, but hopefully you can now see me. Okay, I did also want to say that I did not feel that book 9 was on the same par as some of the earlier books. It just sometimes felt a little meandering. It seemed that certain things weren't entirely necessary. It's not that it is a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. No, nothing like that. I just didn't find it as engrossing and compelling as the last book anyway. Now I'm going to mention some of the things that I really liked, and then I'll get into the spoilers. The humour, as always. There is just so many classic Harry lines. There is this line, Darth bathrobe. Wow, that just tickled my funny bones so much. I think Butcher's humour is very much aligned with mine. I find so many things funny in his books, which is very unusual for me. I also love so many pop culture references that he scatters throughout the books. I loved that Harry calls Molly Grasshopper. I just love it. I don't know if everyone would recognize that, but I grew up watching the Kung Fu TV series, so I knew immediately what Grasshopper referred to. I also really loved seeing how Harry and Molly's relationship has developed. It seemed realistic. Molly has been learning quite a bit, and yet she still sometimes thinks she knows better than Harry and is quite often disobedient. I actually really liked how Harry dealt with that. I thought he was really tough and intimidating and scary, but I think she needed that. And I also really liked how Murphy dealt with Molly. I thought that scene was great and just what she needed. She is unfortunately still a little arrogant as a character, maybe because she's very young, but she still seems to feel I don't have to follow all the rules if I don't want to, even if it places her in danger. And Harry is, not surprisingly, afraid that she will put herself in a situation that she can't get out of. That magic isn't always the answer. I thought that was a very valuable lesson and reminder also to us that Harry doesn't always rely on magic to get him out of situations, that he also needs sometimes to use his wits, his intelligence, his resourcefulness, which is one of the reasons it makes him such a great, well-rounded character. He doesn't just blast in with his rod. Even though I love when he does, he thinks about the situation, how he can minimize, say, the damage or risk to himself or others. He doesn't just allow his temper to rule him. Though in this book, he did sometimes struggle with his temper, quite spectacularly. But that also is in line with his character, because not only is Harry dealing with the mystery as to who is attacking these women, he's also dealing with the responsibilities of being a warden. And part of that was him being involved in a training camp for young wizards, I guess. And an incident that occurred there which really affected him severely. Sometimes I feel that the humour in these books is meant to alleviate all the horrible things that do happen, some of the tragic deaths that occur, and how much they would impact on someone like Harry, who feels he is the self-appointed protector of those more vulnerable, of those at risk in his city. Overall, I really did enjoy this book, but it isn't my favourite. I did, however, love the final confrontation. I thought that was really well done. It is a battle as such, and a major battle, I think, one of the largest I've seen Harry involved in. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of battle scenes. I don't dislike them, I see the necessity for them, but they have to be written well. I have to be able to visualize the scene. Sometimes authors don't get it quite right. I felt that Butcher nailed it. I also thought that the mystery was well done. It was not as unpredictable perhaps as others, but it showed us more the different factions in a group. I know I'm being extremely vague, but that's because I don't want to give anything away. My point is that we know all the different players now, like all the organisations, but he's delving deeper now. He's delving into the internal conflicts within, say, a particular group. And I really enjoyed that. It makes it more layered, more intricate, more detailed. Red alert, I'm now going to be talking spoilers, so if you don't want to see this part, you can skip ahead to the summary. I mentioned earlier that several characters reappear in this book. One is Elaine. I still don't like her. I don't. I get that Harry is very attached to her because she was his first love and they went through something quite horrific under their first mentor. But her character to me isn't as strong, for example, as Murphy's character or even Susan in the last book that she was in. I find her a little weak, a little self-indulgent. She seems somebody who will run away rather than doing the right thing. I understand that based on what Butcher tells us, it is because she doesn't wish to put herself in a position of vulnerability. However, she isn't quite prepared to step out of the purview of the White Council. She skirts on the edges. It's like, I don't want to get caught, but I do. I don't want you to have any say over me, and yet if you don't want to be found out, then go and hide. She doesn't seem to care that she might place Harry in a difficult position, given that he is a warden of the White Council. So I don't have a lot of respect for this character of Elaine. I wasn't happy to see her back, I'll be honest. I really find her uninteresting. I still find her relatively boring. I thought if the author makes her Harry's new love interest, I will be greatly disappointed. And I get that she is familiar, she is someone he did love at one point. But I still suspect she is going to let Harry down. Yeah, that's my gut feeling. I think he deserves better. I really do. That is not, however, to say that she didn't kick ass, because she did. Yes, I loved that scene where she fought back against the mind control. That was really cool. She is clearly powerful, and yet in a different way to Harry. But that wasn't enough to make me really like this character. The second character we see again is Cal, or so Harry thinks. He is not sure. Who he called Darth Bathrobe? Yeah, a lot of questions are left unanswered about Cal. It seems that Cal had control of Vittorio, one of the vampires from the White Court. It is not clear just how that works. There is some mention at the end of the book of outsiders, but we don't know much about them, if anything. Well, very, very little. It seems that the outsiders may be part of this Black Council that are looking to undermine not just the White Council, but also the vampire courts and perhaps even the Fae courts. Clearly, Butcher is setting this up for future books. So, yeah, I can't wait to find out more about that. But Cal's character? Yeah, again, I don't know much about him except that he's arrogant and angry at Harry. But Harry is definitely accumulating a lot of enemies throughout this series. Luckily, he also has allies. Luckily. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be able to get out of some of these messes. The other character who comes back is Marconi. I love Marconi's character. Yes, he is ruthless. Yes, he is selfish. However, as Harry points out in this book, regardless of whether you like his tactics, he has cleaned up the city to the point that there is less violence. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't, definitely. I found it interesting that Harry tried to appeal to Marconi's better nature. And Marconi showed that he isn't without some compassion. I don't think that's surprising. I don't want an antagonist just to be black. I want them to have some grey, because that is more true to nature. So no surprise that I was very happy to see Marconi back, because I always enjoy his character and I love the relationship he has with Harry. Okay. There are a few twists in this story, towards the end anyway. Harry finds out that two families in the White Court of vampires seem to be involved in these killings of these women with magical abilities. Now, the reason the women are being killed is trying to cull them so that there will be less future generations of wizards. Lara. We know, in fact, that the power behind the throne is actually Lara, not Thomas's father. And we do get to see Lara again. She is ruthless, absolutely ruthless. She is very dangerous and manipulative. She basically sets up the conflict between the different families in the White Court of Vampires so that she can strengthen her hold on control of the White Court. She didn't care that so many people were killed. And I guess we shouldn't expect it, right? She's a predator. They're meat as far as she's concerned. I loved, however, how Harry made it clear that one day she was going to be held to account for that. And so she should be. Thomas, Harry's brother. Initially, we are being misdirected into thinking that perhaps Thomas had a hand in some of these deaths. I knew that wasn't going to be the case, so I wasn't surprised that he was actually trying to protect them instead. But I found the fact that he was hiding, working in a salon from Harry, really funny. That he was not embarrassed, but he was worried how Harry would judge him. And I guess it answered at least the question of what the hell Thomas was up to. So in a way, I was relieved that he hasn't become this monster that Harry might eventually have to kill. Because that could happen, right? Lucille. I've said it before, I was really enjoying this battle that Harry was having with Lucille. I don't know how I feel about it. A little let down, actually, that she seems to have gone, that he was able to remove the mark on his hand. I can't believe that storyline is over, though. Yeah, I'm convinced it's not. I don't know if we're now going to see another form of Lucille in the future. I hope so. I really enjoyed that storyline. His point, however, about choices, about free will, about being able to decide whether you're going to give into your anger or not, about using anger as a tool as well, for good, not necessarily for destruction only. I actually agreed with that. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Harry and his experience in New Mexico and being a warden. I made my feelings very clear in my last video that I have no respect for the White Council. And I can't understand why Harry is continuing to help the White Council. Why he is continuing in the role of warden. He must see the flaws in the White Council, in the things that they do. I know he doesn't always approve, and yet it's like he needs their acceptance. I'm really hoping that he throws that off and that he is instrumental in changing this White Council, because it needs to be changed, as I've said before. I didn't mention Ramirez, but honestly, these videos are getting far too long, and I'm sure you guys don't want me to just ramble forever. So I might talk about him in the future, because I'm sure we're going to see him again. Okay. In summary, do I recommend White Knight? I recommend all of them. Seriously, you can't skip any. They're all so interconnected and they're chronological. So you have to read them in order. But it is not my favorite. No, it really wasn't. Not because of anything major, just not as interesting as some of the others have been. That's my thought anyway, though I am intensely curious about a revelation at the end, which I can't say in this part of the video. For a score, I'm going to give White Knight 6. Perhaps a little tough, but as I said, definitely not my favorite. And I think the scoring always will reflect how much you loved the book. Let me know if you agree with the score I gave and what your thoughts are on the book, because you know I always want to hear your opinions. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you can do the usual. You can like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.